back to another edition of Stu Basement Tapes.
Held in the basement of McCain Hall.
I'm Diane Cole.
And I'm TJ Milburn.
And these are our top stories for this week.
Cold animals, keeping pets warm this time of year.
We start the countdown to Valentine's Day with some love stories.
We take a glimpse at the effects of the Gaza turmoil here in Canada.
And we look at the efforts of one woman trying to help out the homeless here in Fredericton.
Lately, temperatures in Fredericton have hit all-time lows at around minus 35. At those temperatures, cold injuries can happen in seconds, so most people are staying warm in their homes. But some Fredericton residents don't have that luxury. Melissa Waugh has the story.
This little cat spent last weekend outside during Arctic-like temperatures. Because of that, he lost pieces of his ears to frostbite.
Their ears are quite thin, so it doesn't take much for them to freeze. And when they do freeze like that, as you can see from him, he's lost, like, the pointy tips are all gone, so.
Lucky for him, someone brought him into the Fredericton SPCA before he lost more of his ears. Danny said she has seen some animals who have lost whole toes and pieces of their tails because of the cold. Frostbite occurs when skin tissue gets too cold and dies, leaving the affected area black and in some cases falling off. Last weekend, temperatures in Fredericton dipped to minus 35 degrees. At temperatures like that, humans can get frostbite in minutes. This puts cats and other animals at a higher risk. But there is a simple way that animals can be protected from this.
Yeah, the best thing to do is bring them in. Even if they don't belong to you and if you don't want to bring them in and you can find a place for them overnight, the shelters, or maybe a friend has a garage that would be willing to take them in for the night. I mean, whatever you can do just to prevent this from happening. So,
Environment Canada is forecasting slightly higher temperatures for the rest of this week. However, temperatures will still be well below zero. So this means frostbite will still be at high risk for people and animals alike. From Fredericton, this is Melissa Waugh for Stu Journalism.
With winter in full gear, it's time for people to bundle up. But for some Fredericton residents, the dangerous sidewalks are as much a concern as the frigid temperatures. Corinne Frost has more.
Snow. It's a normal occurrence this time of year, one that many people would rather do without. For people in the Fredericton area, it's not just digging out cars and hoping city transit is running that are issues. Those waiting at bus stops are stuck trudging through snow and slush on the sidewalks, even days after a snowstorm has hit. One Fredericton resident, Dan Carruthers, is not happy with the winter sidewalk conditions.
I think they could be kept up a little better than they are. It's hard walking, it's narrow, and they don't put enough salt down on them.
But while many people are complaining about the conditions of the sidewalks, it doesn't mean work crews aren't doing their best. With the amount of snowfall Fredericton has received so far this year, crews are working around the clock to try and keep up with the storms.
I think they probably do the best they can as far as getting out, depending on the amount of storms that they have.
And Diane, I've spoken to many students over the past few weeks who have voiced how hard it is to get around Fredericton in the winter, especially after a snowstorm. One student even said when it storms at night, his roommate refuses to go to class the next day because he knows sidewalks and such will not be plowed. For Stu Journalism, I'm Corinne Frost.
This year's Dalton Camp Lecture was held here in McCain Hall. The guest speaker was Maclean's editor-in-chief, Kenneth White. His lecture was entitled Be Interesting or Else, and it focused on his own experiences as a journalist, publisher, and editor of numerous publications teetering on the brink of financial disaster. White says he used to be unique in that situation, but with the economic downturn, he is now one of many.
The industry's a mess, and I'm fast becoming a cliche.
White says many factors have affected the newspaper industry over the past century. He says newspapers used to try to satisfy their readers. Now they need to focus on ad revenue. Of course, with the internet, readers have access to the most current news stories with the click of a mouse. Jason Murray is a third-year journalism student at St. Thomas University. He says White's lecture confirmed his thoughts on the demise of the newspaper.
My generation and the generation that will come after me are certainly not reading a lot of hard copy for news or even watching it on TV. I think the internet is definitely a dominating force in the next, well, forever.
White says that while the internet is convenient, he believes the newspaper does a better job of keeping society accountable. But his message remains, be interesting or else. Many people in Canada are showing their support for victims of the recent turmoil in Gaza. But the pro-Palestinian voice isn't the only one being heard. Ayat Abida Seed is with us now to explain the feelings toward the situation. Ayat?
Well, Diane, the Fredericton Solidarity Group held a vigil for the victims of Gaza in downtown Fredericton. I've talked to a few of people who gathered in solidarity with the victims of Gaza, and they have told me that they are standing in vigil to send a message to Gazans telling them that they're not alone in this war. I also spoke with Tracy Glenn, an organizer of the Fredericton Peace Coalition. She said the vigil is to remember the victims of Gaza who died as 2008 ended and 2009 began. Diane, in the vigil, 6 stories of the victims and the survivors were told. On the other side, were the Israelis and their supporters in the war against Hamas. These supporters were peacefully protesting against Hamas aggression in Israel, and they were quietly defending Israel's latest assaults on Gaza. They were also remembering the victims who were killed at the hand of Hamas aggression. Diane, just to show you how the conflict in Gaza has actually reached Canada, strong arguments have been going back and forth between the pro-Palestinian organizations in Fredericton and the pro-Israelis organizations here. They were calling each other's names via emails. Each side defending their own organization or their own people. The pro-Palestinians strongly believe that Israel has violated international laws and should be prosecuted, and the pro-Israelis believe that Israel has all the right to defend itself in Gaza. I spoke with Richard Blacker, who is a social studies teacher at Woodstock High School and also the co-founder of New Brunswick for Israel. He told me he was very hurt when he read those emails, and he said that he's just asking for balance. Richard was referred to in those emails as a blind person for ignoring how the Holocaust is actually taking place again in Gaza. Those emails, Diane, are just an example to show you the intensity and the tension going on here in Fredericton between both organizations. Back to you, Diane.
Coming up next, 1 year after the strike at St. Thomas.